this time around, I want to go over the Betamovie camera and some things I've done to make a couple of them work. This is the insides of a Betamovie BMC 550. This is the one that has the sensor in it, as opposed to that picture pickup tube thing like the 220s have. One of the problems with all of the 550s and up is that they have a sensor inside, and in front of that sensor is a little square lens, multi-layered laminated lens that gets I don't know if it's fogged or delaminated. I think delaminated, and it fogs up and the image becomes very murky. What I had was two of these. Actually, I have more than that, but two in particular. One, the video quality was good, but it had the foggy. No, I found out by accident. It's a whole thing. The record quality was good. The sensor had the lens fogged up. It also has fungus on the glass lenses. So what I did was I took the good glass lenses, I took that end of the guts and the better recording end and married those two together, and these are what's left over. And this is the 550 that I recently put back together, and it's a good working unit. But what I want to show you is what I have done to get these things apart. Before, what I was doing was I was taking this complete thing apart. Oh sure, now it's all tangled up. Hold on. Taking this thing apart, and it's a bunch of stuff to get apart to get in there and get to this area right here. So I wanted to find a way that was easier. And YouTube was not a lot of help because there weren't very many people that went into these things. Anyway, what I did was I took the outer shell, that's all of this, I took that off, exposing the bare guts. And these two are hooked together like that. And instead of just taking apart this, which is, it's not super complicated, but it's a lot of stress on the mechanism, because you gotta do a lot of twisting and turning and getting stuff moved around, and it's a little bit of a hassle. So what I decided to do was, as I said, try it a different way. So what I did was I took the skin off, as I said, exposed this, and then started unplugging. Well, when you take the thing apart, you're gonna see this. This is gonna have an aluminum shield over it. It's got 4 screws, one on each corner. That allows you to lift up this, and from there, you can reach all of these plugs. Everything plugs in, and there's four or five screws that hold the two halves together. You've got 2 screws down here, 2 screws up here, and I think there's a 5th one back here. You undo all of those, lift the bottom out, and then the top will come out, and you can open that up a little bit, and you start unplugging all of this stuff. Now these are just little multi-pin connectors. They snap together, although I never figured out a good way to really unsnap them. They don't pull apart very well. So what I did was I took a really small, this is a little big, but a really small screwdriver, got it under the edge like that. I would pop them up and I was able to wiggle them out like that. Now this one, I've already, this is take two. The first time I tried this, I left the microphone off. I had to start over, so I had to reassemble this thing. So all of these cords are not in their original positions. So if you're gonna try this, go according to what you see. Take pictures, because all of these cords stick out in a fairly specific spot. Like there's one here. There's actually supposed to be a second one down here, but it's out. You'll see it when it comes out. And all of these come together up in this area here. It looks intimidating, but I found it to be at least as easy as taking this whole thing apart. So what I'm going to go do is go through the motions of disassembling this so that you can get to the sensor hidden in there. So you've gone through the motions, you've taken the shell off, and there's 15 screws or so to hold the shell to the body. There is one thing you have to unplug, and it's the cord that goes to the record button here. So when you take the front off, be a little cautious to draw it back a little bit and then reach in there and pop that plug out. It's also easier if you have the eject door open. And I know the resolution isn't great because I'm working with 90s technology, meaning the camera. This is from the middle 80s. But as I said, taking the shell off, you've taken the shield off, you've got this open, and one by one you've gone through and you've unplugged all those things. Now getting it back together is not going to be as bad as it looks. Most are color coded, and just about all of them only fit in one spot. And if you keep the natural bends in order, when you bring the two halves back together, they'll more or less be where they need to be. Like you can see, these two are kind of in line. That this one goes here, and this one goes in a spot right under here, and it only fits one way. It'll only fit into one slot. So it's not as terrible as it looks. But moving right along, this is all one piece of stamped aluminum, bent stamped aluminum. So you take out those screws. I'm going to do my best to keep my hands out of the way. And interestingly, this one is different. This screw goes right into plastic, so it's a slightly different thread. Just put those aside, and then you've got this screw. Make sure I'm on camera. Move that, because I won't actually be reusing that one anyway. Then you've got two screws. These are silver screws, and they hold on one of these shields. It's a lot of shielding. And there actually is another shield that should be here, but I've had this thing apart three times, and it's soldered on. The solder broke, so that'll go like that. When you take the thing apart, you'll see it. Take pictures, make notes where all these wires are routed, because if you don't get them in the exact same spot that they were in when you took it apart, it's going to be a pain in the ass. So got those three. We've got this three. So we're going to start to flex this off of here. Oops. There's that one. Start to flex this off here. And that comes back like that. And you can, this shielding will bend a little bit, and you're going to need to. But you can also take this off, because this is only held on by a couple of screws. I'll just go ahead and take this. You don't necessarily need to, but it makes it a lot easier. If you take this screw out. Also, I've taken off the microphone housing. And you take these two out. As I said, you don't really have to, but it will make it easier, because now you can move this out of your way. And this may not look simpler, but for me it was a lot simpler. And you can pop this back off. And what you won't be able to see, because I've already done this, is here, here, and here. This board has 3 spots where it's soldered right to the outer can here. Case, cover, whatever you want to call it. So you take a smaller screwdriver. There's 2 screws that have to come out. There's one here. Take that screw out. Take this screw out. And then, again, after you've unsoldered this, and when I unsoldered this, I used my soldering iron and one of these. It's a solder sucker. I don't know what they're actually called. But you cock the plunger, and wherever it is you soldered, as soon as you pull your soldering iron away, you can suck up the solder. And here's one of the gobs that it sucked up, and there was another one here. Well, I don't see it now. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's another gob of solder that it sucked up. And let's see. So you've taken out those 2 screws, you've unsoldered those 3 points. You wiggle this out. There are other screws here, but they don't have to come out. And then there you have it. There is your multi-layered lens. And you can probably see pretty well how fogged up that is. It's held in by 2 screws, little tiny black screws. And then this comes out. Get my hands out of the way. This cover comes off. It only goes back on one way, so you can't screw it up. And then there is your lens. This is what goes in front of the sensor. And inside of there, what has gone bad is not the clear glass, but the blue glass. And I think that is called a UV cut filter. I don't remember exactly. I haven't done this in a little while. So the next step would be, I use the heat gun. I suppose there's other ways, but I use the heat gun. I got this thing fairly hot, and then pried it apart with just a thin bladed knife. Nice and hot. You can always pop those things apart just like that. And that's all it is. So you get it apart, clean it real good. I used acetone. Clean it real good. Get a new piece of blue UV cut glass. I got mine from some guy online. I can post a link in the show notes. I used clear optical epoxy to glue it back together, and a little drop on each side of the blue filter, and blocked them. I had these two little high density plastic blocks like that with velvet on the inside, and I put it together like this, clamped it, make sure it was all square and flat, and left it overnight, and it worked out great. And I put it back in the camera I've already shown you, and it works well. So I know that looks like a lot, but it's more than 5 screws, probably 7 or 8 screws. But to me it was a lot easier to manipulate. It may not necessarily be less work, but it's less manipulation of the parts. And it's an alternate method of doing this. I'm just going to put this back together because I don't know when I'm actually going to do this. And this goes back in like that, yep. And you'll restring all of your cords wherever they came from. This is all messed up now, but I'm not terribly concerned about it. I also see that my eyepiece fell off, but it was also broken, and I gotta fix that. But that is all I wanted to show you. That's how I did it. So the other camera was made from the clear glass lenses with the repaired sensor lens and the better recording end of another machine to make one that works well. And I know that's a little oversimplified, but it's not as intimidating as you might think. And if you wanted to, you can even access the little servo motor that drives the autofocus. Now I've done 2 of these with replacement belts, and what I have used for belts is these orthodontic elastics, 3.5 ounce, whatever that means, 3/8 inch. I found them online. It was like, I don't know, $6 for a whole bag of these. So, but the thing is that all of the 220s I've worked on, those worked fine, and the autofocus is great. I've done 3 of these 550s now, and apparently the autofocuses just don't work. I don't know what is missing, or if I'm just not seeing something, but they don't work. So that'll be another project for another day, but I wanted to pass this along to you as an option if you were so inclined as to try and take one of these apart and replace that lens. I think altogether it's about 2 hours work to take the thing apart, put it back together again, and fix that lens. It's probably slower the first time, but that's all I wanted to show you. And to put it back together again would be the reverse. That's why I say take pictures, so you can get all this stuff back where it belongs, all your plugs back in their proper place. Get this so it lays down flat with its shield over it, and have a working camera. Because I think I haven't run across one of these yet. I don't know how many of these I've bought, and I bought them dirt cheap. They're not worth much. the build quality of these is amazing. And I haven't run across one, haven't bought one yet that hasn't worked. Some work better than others, and I've got one where the picture is really not used. In fact, it's this one. The picture really isn't usable, but it does record. But there's something wrong, I'm fairly certain, with the recording head. But that is beyond my skill level. So that's all I wanted to show you. So, until next time.